Eric into trouble. He's probably in enough trouble already. But we really must stop these silly pretences. This isn't the time to pretend that Eric isn't used to drink. He's been steadily drinking too much for the last 2 years. It isn't true. You know him, Gerald, and you're a man. You must know it isn't true. Well, Mr. Croft, I'm afraid it is, you know. Actually, I've never seen much of him outside this house, but well, I've gathered that he does drink pretty hard. And this is the time that you choose to tell me. Yes, of course it is. That's what I meant when I talked about building up a wall that's sure to be knocked flat. It makes it all the harder to bear. But it's you, and not the inspector here, who's doing it. Yes, but don't you see? He hasn't started on you yet. If necessary, I shall be glad to answer any questions the inspector wishes to ask me. Though naturally, I don't know anything about this girl. We'll see, Mrs. Burling. Enter Burling, who closes the door behind him. I've been trying to persuade Eric to go to bed, but he won't. He says now that you stayed him to stay up. Did you? Yes, I did. Why? Because I shall want to talk to him, Mr. Burling. I can't see why you should, but if you must, then I suggest you do it now. Have him in and get it over with and let the lad go. I can't do that yet. I'm sorry. He'll have to wait. Now, look here, Inspector. He must wait his turn. You see? No, I don't. Please be quiet, Sheila. Inspector, I've told you before, I don't like your tone, nor the way you're handling this inquiry, and I don't propose to give you much more rope. You needn't give me any rope. No, he's giving us the rope so that we'll hang ourselves. What is the matter with that child? Overexcited, and she refuses to go. Well, come along, Inspector. What is it you want to know? At the end of January last year, this girl, Eva Smith, had to leave Millwards because Miss Burling compelled them to discharge her. And then she stopped being Eva Smith, looking for a job, and became Daisy Renton, with other ideas. Mr. Croft, when did you first get to know her? Where did you get the idea that I did know her? It's no use, Gerald. You're wasting time. As soon as I mentioned the name Daisy Renton, it was obvious you'd known her. You gave yourself away at once. Of course he did. And anyhow, I knew already. When and where did you first meet her? All right, if you must have it. I met her first sometime in March last year, in the stalls in a bar at the Palace. I mean the Palace Music Hall here in Brumley. Well, we didn't think you meant Buckingham Palace? Thanks. You're going to be a great help, I can see. You've said your piece and you're obviously going to hate this, so why on earth don't you just leave us to it? Nothing would induce me. I want to understand exactly what happens when a man says he's so busy at the works he can hardly find time to come and see the girl he's supposed to be in love with. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Yes, Mr. Croft. In the stalls at the Palace Variety Theatre. I happened to look in one night after a long, dull day, and as the show wasn't very bright, I went down into the bar for a drink. It's a favourite haunt of women of the town. Women of the town? Yes, but I don't see no point in mentioning the subject, especially... It would be much better if Sheila didn't listen to this story at all. But you're forgetting. I'm supposed to be engaged to the hero of it. Gerald, go on. You went down to the bar, which is a favourite haunt of women of the town. I'm glad I amuse you. Come along, Mr. Croft. What happened? I didn't propose to stay long down there. I hate those hard-eyed, dough-faced women. But then I noticed a girl who looked quite different. She was very pretty. Soft brown hair and big dark eyes. My God! What's the matter? Sorry, I've suddenly realised, taken it in properly, that she's dead. Yes, she's dead. And probably between us, we killed her. Sheila, don't talk nonsense. You wait, Mother. Go on. She looked young and fresh and charming and altogether out of place down there. And obviously she wasn't enjoying herself. Old Joe Meggerty, half drunk and goggle-eyed, and wedged her into the corner with that obscene fat carcass of his. There's no need to be disgusting. And surely you don't mean Alderman Meggerty? Of course I do. He's a notorious womaniser, as well as one of being the worst sots and rogues in Brumley. Quite right. Well, really? Alderman Meggerty? I must say, we are learning something tonight. Of course we are. But everybody knows that horrible old Meggerty. A girl I know had to go and see him in the town hall one afternoon, and she only escaped with a torn blouse. Sheila. Go on, please. The girl saw me looking at her and then gave me a glance and that was nothing less than a cry for help. So I went over and told Joe Meggerty some nonsense. The manager had a message for him or something like that, and got him out of the way, and then told the girl that if she didn't want any more of that sort of thing, she'd better let me take her out of there. She agreed at once. Where did you go? We went along to the county hotel, which I knew would be quiet at that time of night, and we had a drink or two and talked. Did she drink much at that time? No. She only had a port and lemonade or some other such concoction. All she wanted to do was talk. a little friendliness. And I gathered that J. and Megaty's advances had left her rather shaken, as well they might. She talked about herself. Yes. I asked her questions about herself, and she told me her name was Daisy Renton, and she'd lost both her parents, and she came originally from somewhere outside Brumley. She told me she'd had a job in one of the works here and had to leave after a strike. She said something about a shop too, but wouldn't say which it was, and she was deliberately vague about what happened. I couldn't get any exact details about her past life. She wanted to talk about herself just because she felt I was interested and friendly. But at the same time she wanted to be Daisy Renton and not Eva Smith. In fact, I heard that name for the first time tonight. When did she let slip, though she didn't mean to, that she was desperately hard up and at that moment was actually hungry? I made the people at the county find some food for her. And was that when you decided to keep her as your mistress? What? Of course, Mother. It was obvious from the start. Go on, Gerald. Don't mind Mother. I discovered not that night, but 2 nights later when we met again, not accidentally this time of course, that in fact she hadn't a penny and was going to be turned out of a miserable back room that she had. It happened that a friend of mine, Charlie Brunswick, had gone off to Canada for 6 months and had let me have the key to a nice little set of rooms he'd had in Morgan Terrace, and had asked me to keep an eye on them for him and use them if I wanted to. So I insisted on Daisy moving into those rooms, and I made her take some money to keep her going. I want you to understand that I didn't install her there so that I could make love to her. I made her go to Morgan Terrace because I was very sorry for her and didn't like the idea of her going back to the Palace Bar. I didn't ask for anything in return. I see. Yes. But why are you saying that to him? You ought to be saying it to me. I suppose I ought, really. Sorry, Sheila. Somehow I know. Somehow he makes you. Yes, but she became your mistress. Yes, I suppose it was inevitable. She was young and pretty and warm-hearted and intensely grateful. I became at once the most important person in her life. You understand? Yes. She was a woman. She was lonely. You were in love with... Were you in love with her? That's just what I was going to ask. Really, I must protest. Why should you do any protesting? It was you who turned the girl out in the first place. Well, I only did what any employer might have done, and what I was going to say was that I protest at the way in which my daughter, a young unmarried girl, is being dragged into this. Your daughter isn't living on the moon. She's here in Brumley too. Yes, and it was I who had the girl turned out of her job at Millwoods, and I'm supposed to be engaged to Gerald, and I'm not a child, don't forget. I've a right to know. Were you in love with her, Gerald? It's hard to say. I didn't feel about her as she felt about me.